Hi, my beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Mindful the Podcast. Now, my guest today is a passionate advocate for self care and understanding our bodies. Her mission is to empower women to live in harmony with their cycles and embrace self love on a deeper level. And it is my honor to welcome to the podcast the inspiring Gigi Hunt. Hi, Gigi. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Now, Gigi, I know I said a little, but tell us a little about yourself and what you do.
Okay, well, I'm Gigi, like you mentioned, here at Glow Flow. I am a registered nurse and an intuitive flow educator, and I'm here my mission, my passion is to help you understand how aligning with your menstrual cycle can help you feel more balanced, more energized, and more in control of your life. Because sometimes self-care in just a blanket term can be so overwhelming. But once we understand that we're not meant to vibe at the same energy level during all of our cycle days, it unlocks a whole nother level for us to be more compassionate and just more in tune with ourselves.
Okay. And you know, you talked about cycles and cycle syncing with self-care. But can you tell us what exactly is cycle syncing?
Absolutely. So sometimes when we go through our months, we women, we go through our cycle, right? That is for between 21 and 35 days. And during these shifts, these different cycles, our hormones, our energy levels, our mood, even our physical body changes. So
Yeah.
all of these ups and downs that we experience are just naturally part of our hormonal changes in our cycle. So each phase of our cycle, the menstrual phase, the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, and the luteal phase, they all affect us in different ways. So aligning our self-care practices with these different hormonal shifts has helps us to be more aligned and positively impacts our overall well-being.
Okay, so walk us through it now. How can we cycle sync to get the most out of our bodies? Because you mentioned the hormonal. For me, I know the energy level gets down, that sort of thing. So how can we sync our cycles that we produce more, that we don't feel as tired and as dragged as, we women usually are?
Yeah. So I like to look at the phases of our cycles with a theme because I'm one of those people that if I see a bigger picture, I'm able to kind of follow the flow more easily. So let's start with our menstrual cycle, our menstrual phase. I'm sorry. So when we think of our menstrual phase, think about like the winter month because we are very aligned with nature itself. So we are nature in itself, right? So just like every year there's a different season, we also as women go through a different season every few days, right? So during our menstrual phase, the winter months, I like to think of it as the theme of rest, reflection. During this time, it's very important to focus on very restorative self-care practices like, chilling,
Yes.
being resting, not pushing, not going hard, nourishing our bodies with warm foods and like really nutrient dense, because usually this is the time when we are shedding the lining of our uterus, and this is when we get our period, right? Whatever it is that we call it at that time.
Yes.
So phase is usually marks the beginning of our new cycle, our new phase. So during this times, hormonally, our estrogen level and our progesterone levels are lower. So because of this, like I said, our uterine lining is shedding, and we might experience things like cramping and bloating and fatigue and just being more like reserved. You want to be more introverted and introspecting. So things that we can do to align better with this cycle is to just allow ourselves more space, basically, and just rest and, just be calm, cool, and collected. And that is something that we can do for self-care for ourselves, because when we rest, when we need rest, we are able to, I guess, go hard when it's time for us to go hard. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it does.
And Yeah. And then as we, phase out of this phase into the spring month, let's call our follicular phase the spring. The flowers are blooming, everything is kind of defrosting if you live in like colder places. This time I look at it as the theme of energy and creativity. Our energy is kind of like slowly elevating. This phase overlaps a little bit with the menstrual phase, because our as we're shedding our lining, our energies and our hormones are starting to rise. So this is a crucial time to kind of just start new projects. If you want to start a new projects, you might start,
Okay.
getting out of your shell a little bit more, just like in the spring, like it's still a little cool, but you're doing more. You're able to, if you're exercising, you could go harder at the gym. You're feeling much better. You're kind of coming out of that winter time. So this is a good time to do more self-care activities that involve things like being out in nature and starting to get into the routine of getting stuff done. If you're working, if you're like an entrepreneur, this is like a good time to spark that creativity and start new projects and um new work endeavors, work on your offers, do all these things. This is the perfect time for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in other words, then, like, whatever phase we're going through, we should match like the phases, with the activities to kind of optimize ourselves or optimize productivity or what we can do as women.
Correct, correct. Because here's something that I've found to be true. When it's winter time and it's time for rest, it's not the time to be doing summertime activities,
Okay.
right? So for instance, like I like to think as like our ovulatory phase as the summertime when you're going to the out. I like to just refer to it like this because I feel like it's better to understand, but you're out there, you're going to the picnics, you're going to the beach, you're doing all the things, you're very active, you're eating a little less because usually it's hotter. Like in during our ovulatory phase, we might not be as hungry as when we are in the winter time, which is our menstrual phase. So matching your energy level, your activities and your self-care to your energy level through your natural hormonal fluctuations will help you to optimize your life so that you could feel more in sync. A lot of times we feel so frustrated because we're trying to do things when it's not that season. It's not that season to be going hard. So that's what I've found.
But Gigi, yes, we should match, the cycle with the activities. But as moms, or, when you're busy, as busy persons, how can we do that when you always have to be on the go? I mean, some of us work like 9 to 5. We have kids, we have other things going on, a side hustle, we have a business trying to run. Like, how can, I'm not sure, how can we sometimes slow down, sometimes, how can we match, the activities with the cycle to get the most out of things when we always just have to be on the go.
Yes, yes. I totally get what you're saying. And this is something that I had to you know, especially at the beginning of my cycle alignment journey, I had to really think ahead for, okay? So during, for instance, your luteal phase, which we're going to call the fall phase, right? This is a
Okay.
time of preparation. So let's say we're busy moms, like I'm a busy mom, I am an entrepreneur, I homeschool my kids. The way that I help myself to align with my cycles is one, giving myself grace and compassion when things don't necessarily go my way, but also setting those boundaries and setting yourself up for success. So during the time when I am at my best, I am, I have all of this energy, I feel great. I like to plan. I like to
Okay.
plan ahead. So that might look like meal prepping. That might look like having that conversation with your family. I like to always say that when it's my menstrual phase, everyone knows, like in my home, like this is mommy's times to slow down. Mommy needs to meditate a little bit extra. Mommy needs to chill out because I don't want to overexert myself. So it is possible by, building habits and routines. I'm really big on habit stacking because this is something that we do little by little every day. So when the time comes when you need to rest, it's not like, oh my gosh, I go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
All of these phases are a gradual change throughout the month. Okay. So as moms, I think that the best way that we could do this for ourselves is to set boundaries, communicate our needs, and prepare ourselves.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's a good advice, to plan ahead and prepare ahead. Because I know sometimes we get busy, and it's not easy to plan ahead. But thinking about it now, sometimes if we do plan ahead to say, okay, my menstrual cycle is starting and I know I'm gonna be down, I'm not gonna be feeling well, that sort of thing. You don't take on new projects, you don't plan a party. Plan to take the kids to all the activities you can. And I like that you said, you can ask for help, communicate what you need, bring other people in so that at that phase, you have the help where you can sometimes fall back and somebody else can pick up the slack. So I love that. I love that. But for cycle syncing, Gigi, how how important is like foods? What specific foods should we eat or maybe avoid during the phases of the menstrual cycle?
Okay. So I think that it's so important before I answer your question to understand that because we're going through so many different changes, we have a different needs. So remember how I said that during your ovulation phase, which is your summertime, you aren't as hungry as, let's say, during your menstrual phase or in your luteal phase going into your menstrual phase where you're ravenous, right? Like I know that I've heard many women say like I feel like I can't, like all the cravings, right? You start craving the
Yes.
salt, you start craving this, you start craving that. There's a reason why we're craving this. So allowing ourselves to indulge mindfully, of course, is very important. So during our menstrual phase, when we are shedding the lining of our uterus and we are bleeding and we are losing iron, it's very important to replenish those iron source with foods that are nutrient dense and high in iron. Spinach, right? Red meat. If you are vegan or you don't eat meat, beans, lentils. It's very important to have nourishing foods like soups and stews, nice and warming, comforting foods that are going to help you to feel nice and warm and restful. I also feel like it's very important as well to support, along with nutrition, support ourselves with herbs. For example, during our menstrual phase, herbs like red clover are very important because they contain phytoestrogen, which helps our hormones become more balanced, and it helps with those PMS symptoms like cramps and all of these things. Ginger, incorporating more ginger during this time is going to help reduce the inflammation that is going on right now with the shedding and all of the
Yes.
processes, and also with the pain, and if you get nauseous, things like that. And then when we go over to the other side, like for instance, during our uh ovulatory phase, the summertime, we're not as hungry. We don't need as, our bodies is going hard, right? This is the time when back in our most natural state, this is the time where we're looking for our mate. We're really like more aroused, we're preparing to have a baby, even though we're not, not every month is the same, but our body doesn't know that. So it's very important to support our bodies with foods that are high in antioxidants, that's going to support our process of egg, our egg process, our egg health, like our like when we're ovulating, that whole process, food that are going to support us with that. So fresh and light, think about fresh and light, salads, smoothies, a lot of fresh fruits, herbs like peppermint are really good for easing the digestive discomfort that the whole process of ovulation can cause, and to help us with that mental clarity part of it as well.
Okay. And what about the exercise part of it? Like, is there specific exercises that we can do to help to bring out the moods or to alleviate some of the hormones and that sort of thing?
Absolutely. So I always say, like, during your menstrual phase is not the time to be going hard at the gym, okay? It's a time for you to go nice and slow and restorative exercises like yoga, stretching, even like walking. These are like low impact exercises that are so important because they do help with the discomfort and the bloating and the pain, but you're not going to want to go to the gym and do like a HIIT workout and go hard Pilates, at this time. But during your ovulatory phase, when you're like peak energy, this is when our energy is at its peak. This is when we're going to be feeling the most bomb. This
Yes.
is when you want to do your hit your I train in jiu-jitsu, and that's when I go the hardest, right? During the other times I might still go, but like even intentionally I'm not going as hard as I would, and then I would allow myself extra rest, because when we are not aligning with our hormonal change, what it does is it causes chaos. So if you're going hard at the gym during your menstrual phase, what it's going to do is it's going to raise your cortisol levels. It's going to raise your stress hormones, and that's not going to do you any favors at all whatsoever. What it's going to do is the exercise won't be effective, and it's going to do the opposite of what you want it to do.
And that's so true because I realized that in the past 2 months, I have like not 2 months, but the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I had because I go to the gym. I try to exercise like 4 times per week. So I really go at it and I have an injury. And I realized that from the year has started, the weight because the stress and all of that is on me. The goal that you'd have for the weight goal and that sort of thing, although you're doing the things, trying to eat properly, going to the gym, none of it was working. You know what I mean? And I'm always on the go. Always on the go. And I realized that in the past 3 weeks, because I'm injured and could not go to the gym, I was resting more. And Gigi, let me tell you, those 3 weeks of resting, I got up and I expected like my clothes to fit tighter and all of that. And instead, I was so shocked because everything is like they're fitting a little looser and my body's looking, it's changing. And I'm like, so what I needed was rest all this time. And I'm thinking, I need to just go, go, go. You need to do the thing. But actually, my body was saying, thank you for letting us do what we need to do by resting. So
Uh,
I get that sometimes, every phase of your life, that when you need to rest, it's resting time. And when you need to go, when you have that energy, it's that time that you just go, go, go. But every phase is important. And I'm seeing that now.
I want us to learn to normalize rest as also being productive because, and it's all about intentionality, Like I said, like even though you could still go to the gym and do your exercise and do your workout, and it's still, if you're doing it with the intention of, oh, I'm going to allow myself a little bit more space, where you're not
Yes.
going crazy, like pedal to the metal, it does make a big difference.
Okay, okay. So,
Yeah.
Gigi, let us talk about some misconceptions that, women may have. Because, society and culture, women are, what should I say? I don't want to use the word down pressed by, societal norms and culture, where we're in, say, a man's world, where, sometimes they don't understand what we may be going through. Society puts all this pressure on us. So, I mean, in our menstrual cycle, sometimes it's when we're going through that phase, sometimes we don't want to, we're in pain, we may be moody, but we don't want to say it because you might be viewed a certain way. And especially people in corporate, when you work, you don't want to say, okay, I need to rest because I'm in such discomfort and pain, so you keep pushing. So I mean, how can we maybe change that narrative? How can we make people understand that this is natural and normal for us, and we need to listen to our bodies as women?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I feel like it's important to note that this is where boundaries come in as well, very strongly, and the inner work. When we align with our cycle, I feel like cycle alignment is such a spiritual practice. It's not just about like, oh, we're doing the self-care, but also becoming more in tune with your natural cyclic nature. And as we do that, we learn to set those boundaries and we learn to communicate what we need a lot more effectively within our workspace, in our relationship with our children, with our spouses. We develop that sense of self and confident in our own body's natural flow. And we start to realize, like, okay, well, this is what I need unapologetically.
Yes.
Like, like it is what it is. Now, I'm not saying like, oh my God, you're just not going to go to work or you're just not going to be mom or whatever. But a lot of it, I think, is like a lot of introspect, a lot of our relationship to ourselves, right? And allowing ourselves to rest when we need to rest and allowing extra time to be, in that space of allowing ourselves to recover. Okay. So a perfect example, going back to the gym situation, I don't like to really miss a lot of my classes, but sometimes I do because it's that time when I need to get some more rest. Or maybe I will go to my class, but my intention is to slow down, but then I allow myself extra rest. So, if you work a corporate job where you have to go 9 to 5, you still probably go to work. And the beautiful thing is about cycle alignment is that the more in tune you are with your body, the more these side effects and symptoms of PMS and cramps and these horrid symptoms that we experience, the more they lessen because the more we are in tune with our bodies, the more our bodies love us.
Okay,
The more
okay.
settle down. I've heard of many women that after cycle alignment, their periods aren't as rough and tough for them. because they're more in tune, supporting themselves the way that they need to support themselves nutritionally, exercise wise, mentally. So I feel like, this work is so important because as women living in a very patriarchal society, we learn to be more confident in our own power and know when to stop, know when to rest, know when to pause, and establish those boundaries unapologetically without feeling guilt, without feeling shame. And the more we are in that power, the more the world around us kind of reflects that as well.
True. And, if at the time we need to slow down a little bit, we can. But then if you work like in corporate per se, when it's time to go hard and you can go harder, you can do all the tasks and get everything done. So it's not like you're slacking off, but you can get the things done in the phases when you're high energy and that sort of thing. So I'm understanding now about the alignment and, supporting yourself and matching, the phases with the activities, with the self-care so that we can, optimize productivity and everything around us in our lives. Love it, Gigi. And I never thought about things like this. You know what I mean? You get your menstrual cycle and it's just like, okay, all right, for this next week, for this next 2 weeks, this is it. And then, okay, it's gone. So you always think about this as, like doomsday or this doom period. That's how you kind of think of it. But I've never thought of it that, I can plan ahead. I can support myself in the different phases, to make sure that I am good.
Yeah, that
So
you're taken care of because you're worthy of that and you deserve to be taken care of.
yes. But talking about self-care, how can we, because people always talk about self-care, and sometimes we say, oh, it's getting our hair done, getting our nails done, that sort of thing. Let's talk a little about self-care. What can we do, you know, self-care wise to help us and to assist us in all of these phases?
Yes, absolutely. So for me, self-care goes beyond the little luxuries that a lot of people associate with self-care. To me, self-care is setting those boundaries, not taking on more tasks than you need to because you're people pleasing and you want people to like you or not let people down. You don't, for me, self-care is taking radical responsibility for your role in your own life. So self-care encompasses so much more than just bubble bath and you know
Exactly.
so with each phase understanding more about what each phase means, supporting yourself through that. So during your menstrual phase, allowing yourself extra time to rest, extra time to sleep. I was actually listening to this study where most of the studies that they did on men and on sleep, how much hours of the day you need to sleep, most of it was done with men. Now they're starting to realize that women actually need more than what it is that is recommended, which is what, 7 to 8 hours. Women
Hours,
actually
yes.
need 8 to 9 hours of extra sleep. Now, I'm not saying that you are going to possibly sleep that long if you have family and you have all these things you have to do, but allowing yourself intentional extra rest. That could be by taking a time during your lunch break or during your corporate job, taking 10 minutes to just simply slow your mind down, maybe do some deep breathing. All of these things are going to lower your cortisol level and help you to rest, be productive, right? During like the follicular phase, when your energy is spiking, a self-care activity that you can do is, taking on a new project because self-care also means reaching your goals and working, having inspired actions and doing the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. So doing those things when you need to. During your ovulatory phase, self-care also means nourishing relationships, right? It means being able to have like good relationship, close relationship with others outside of yourself. This is the time when we're high peak socializing, right? This is the time when we want to. So scheduling a friend date or, just spending some extra time if it's on social media, if you're socializing through that or, mom group or the work party, that's your self-care. That's very important. And then, during your luteal phase, a good self-care is to prepare for the next phase ahead. If that means meal planning, setting these boundaries, having the kids know what's going on, telling your spouse, like, listen, we're about to enter this phase, give me some space. These are all self-care things that you could do through each phase of your cycle.
Okay, okay, great, great. I was reading up a little, Gigi, and I saw cycle tracking and then there's cycle syncing. What's the difference between the two?
Oh, this is one of my most favorite questions. Thank you for asking. So cycle tracking is simply gathering the data. You know when your menstrual cycle, when your menstrual phases, when your period comes, when you're ovulating. You're simply gathering data. You're plugging it in. A lot of us use apps,
Yes,
like apps, oh, October
that's what
9th.
most women do, cycle track then.
Yeah, we cycle track. I was cycle tracking for many, many, many years before I entered the concept of aligning with my cycle. Now, where it gets really great is when you cycle align, because then you're using that data that you're gathering to align your life to it. So during your menstrual phase, now you know when your period is, now you know the timeline. This is the time for you to nourish your body with iron-rich foods, do low impact exercises. You're still moving your body, but you're not going hard, right? You're doing maybe those things that bring you fulfillment and joy, like your bubble bath and your, soaking your feet and getting your hair done or getting your nails done. Like these are the things that you do more during this time. The herbs that you're consuming, right? Like the red raspberry tea, like these are all things that you're doing based on the data that you gathered, correct? So
Okay.
you gathered the data, now you use the data to align your lifestyle to the data so that you can support yourself during each of these cycles.
Okay, great. Because when I was reading, I'm like, what's the difference? But now I know that, well, most women from you enter puberty and you get your menstrual cycle, you cycle track. You're told to write down
Yeah.
every date when it starts, when it ends, that sort of thing. But now I understand that cycle tracking and then the cycle alignment, the cycle syncing is using it now to plan ahead so you can plan and match all your activities with the phases that you're gonna go through. Great, 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 great. I'm learning. In wrapping up a little, Gigi, you know, I should ask a very important question that just came in my head. Is there like an age for cycle syncing? Um, should we start aligning, or cycles with our lives? Is there a specific age that we should start or end? Because some people might say, oh, I'm in the menopausal stage, so I don't need to do that. Um, is there some sort of age or time limit when we should start or end this?
So I like to say that the best time to start cycle alignment is when you start getting your menstrual cycle. However, the second best time is right now, right away. It doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. Like it's still super beneficial to do this because this is actually going to make, even if you are going to go through menopause soon or you're in perimenopause, this is going to help you get more in tune with your body, which is going to alleviate a lot of these symptoms that a lot of women experience. So the best time is right when you start your menstrual cycle. The next best time is right now, immediately. Just start.
So since I'm learning, I can just start right now.
Start. Yes. Yes.
Great, great. Um, Yes, Gigi. And do you have any other advice to us for us women? Or what do you hope that we will take away from understanding our bodies through cycle syncing and alignment?
Yeah, so I really wholeheartedly believe that this is the way that nature intended us to live and flow. Our menstrual cycles are a very powerful time in our lives, right? It's the most powerful time, especially when we're in that bleeding phase. A lot of us think of it as like this, oh, this down thing. But historically, this has always been the time when women are at their most powerful, peak power. And when we start harnessing all of that magic within ourselves and start getting in tune, we are going to see how it's going to affect and impact our reality. Because when we are good inside, as within, so without, right? So when we're good inside and we feel so in tune and we feel so powerful and in control of our lives and our natural phases, we are able to translate that to our jobs, to our families, to the people that we meet. I think it's such an important concept. And personally for me, the way that it has impacted is my life is has impacted and positively in a good way, my relationship to myself, my relationship with my children, my relationship with my husband. I was able to release over 50 pounds 4 years ago when I started this whole process. And I have been able to maintain it without difficulty, without stressing, without jumping from one fad to the next, because I'm clearly in alignment with my natural hormonal flow. There's no need to go outside of you for the things because we have everything that we need already installed.
We're in tune with our bodies, and that's what we need to be.
Yes, I really, really wholeheartedly believe that if you're menstruating, being aligned with that flow is going to be beneficial for your physical health, your body, and your soul.
Great, great, great. Good stuff, good stuff. So, in wrapping up, I like to give a little, what I've learned. So in from our little chat, I've learned that we need to most importantly listen to our bodies. We need to listen to our bodies. We also have to be in tune, with our natural and cyclic nature. And when we talk about being in tune, we have to be in tune to align and support ourselves. And this means whether it's nutritionally being supporting ourselves, mentally, physically, emotionally, we have to align and support ourselves, right? I also learned that the different phases of our cycle means that we have to do different things, or we may have to do different things. So we may have to rest, reflect, and do some, as you said, Gigi, some restorative self-care, which is, sleep a little more, slow down. I need to learn to do that. So so we may have to slow down a little, rest a little bit more. Another time we might have the energy. So, we start the new projects, we do the new things, tackle things that we never tackled before, that sort of thing, or tackle things that we wanted to tackle a long time ago. Be up more and about with the children, with the family, that sort of thing, where we have more energy in that phase, as you call it, maybe the summer phase. Yes. And we have to think ahead, prepare, plan. Very important. So we know our cycle, we know the different phases, plan ahead so that we can, you know, optimize our full potential in those phases. Plan for it. And planning ahead may mean that we have to set boundaries. Sometimes we have to communicate what we want, ask for assistance, ask for help. Okay? So we also learned that Nutrition is very important also. Herbs, um, whether it's by drinking teas, that sort of thing can also help us during this cyclical nature or time or phases, right? Um, yeah, and we can do our self-care and have a balanced life if we cycle think and plan ahead. I think that's what I've learned. Am
Now
I
to in
right? Good, good, good. So, yeah, that's in summing up. And, so I know, Gigi, that my listeners have learned a whole lot. Because, as I said, every woman in the world learn to cycle track. But for me, I've never thought about cycle syncing. It has never crossed my mind until now. So good job. Thank you so much, for helping us to learn all of these things or bringing our attention to it. Because I know a lot of women don't even think about these things. You know what I mean? So you drawing our attention to how we can get over these phases in life. Brilliant. So thank you very, very much. So Gigi, how can we get in touch with you and learn more from you?
Okay, so I actually have a very special community. It's called The Bloody Truth Period Talk and Support. It's on Facebook. You can search it on the Facebook search bar, and it's a free community, and I share so much wisdom in there on cycle alignment, on our periods. All the women in there are amazing and also share in their experiences and their journeys. Lots of questions. You could post question anonymously if you're not really wanting everyone to know your business, and get answers, because that's what we want. I want to foster a community where women feel heard, safe, and open to sharing these experiences so that we can positively impact each other. I'm also on Instagram at glowflow.withgigi. You could come there. I post some really informative content on this topic as well. And so come along, and my inbox is always open. So you could DM me either on Facebook at Gigi Hunt or on Instagram, or join in the group.
Yes, and I will be putting everything for Gigi in the show notes. So all the links, everything will be there so you can find her people. Okay? So thank you again, Gigi, for, coming and educating us about this and drawing our attention to cycle syncing. It was very informative, very, very inspiring. And I know my listeners, especially my woman listeners, will, learn and take away lots from this. So thank you so much.